This is Rob Tebbutt for Behind the Gloves. I'm here with MACKLIN at the AMIR announcement, the official announcement. AMIR joins Matchroom. What do you make of that, Matt?
I think it's a good move for everyone. I think it's good for Sky, it's good for Matchroom, it's good for AMIR, it's good for boxing fans, particularly in Britain. You know, one of the fights we've all wanted to see for a long time is Khan and Tebbutt. You know, there's danger that every fight has a kind of time when it's hot. You know, and then, you know, the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight generated a lot of money and a lot of interest, but it probably wasn't as appealing as it would have been to the boxing fans maybe a couple of years previous. You know, maybe you could say that's the same for this, but I still think it's a big fight. It's still a big fight that I think everyone still wants to see. I think, you know, Brooks lost 2 fights, but Golovkin, you know, he stepped up 2 weight divisions to fight him. No one else wanted to fight him. He's, you know, maybe the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. No shame whatsoever in that. Then bounced straight back into his against his mandatory against Errol Spence. You know, a tough fight coming back after the loss to Golovkin. Another tough fight. But so, yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen where he's at after those 2 losses back-to-back from a psychological confidence point of view, etc. But, you know, generally there shouldn't be too much, you know, there weren't miles on the clock really from the Golovkin fight. Maybe, look, he had the injury and different things, but what I mean, I suppose I'm waffling a little bit here, but my point is, Tebbutt is still an absolute top-class fighter. You know, maybe he looks like he's moving up to 154 pounds, like middleweight. You know, would Khan go up there? Maybe he would, I don't know. So, you know, that, and listen, if he does or he doesn't, there's lots of big fights out there for Amir Khan. You know, I mean, he's one of the big names in boxing. You know, the welterweight division, never been hotter. You know, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence. You know, what about Khan and Spence? You know, maybe then it's Brook comes back into the mix. Who knows? But whatever happens, I think it's good news that he's with Matchroom. I think Eddie's really been delivering big fights. It's good that he's going to be on Sky. He just opens up a lot of avenues for him, a lot of options that maybe would have been closed off before.
Now, I know it's come as something of a surprise to a lot of us, particularly boxing fans who know a bit about the checkered past between AMIR and Eddie Hearn, certainly a lot of back and forth in the press. Is it a surprise to you? Do you think it will be any sort of obstacle moving forward, or do you think they'll be able to put that behind them, all of the past animosity?
No, I don't think so. At the end of the day, boxing's a business, but it can be very personal to you as well, you know what I mean? So, but look, I think people mature, time's a healer, and you know, at the end of the day, the best place I think for the big fights for Amir Khan are here on Sky. You know, I think you know, the Tebbutt fight, that's probably been an issue for a while for that fight not happening, but the fact is with Eddie, it's just easy for these fights to get made. And you know, in fairness, Eddie's been delivering big fights, you know, even with promoters in America. So, you know, it's good. I mean, you know, James DeGale left Frank Warren one time. You know, that was a bit, you know, that wasn't the most, what would you say, it didn't, yeah, it wasn't the most amicable, but, you know, he went back, and good, you know, it's good that happens, because it's his business, and, you know, it was, the guy went back, Khan's come back here with Eddie, and it's good to see. I mean, people, it's business, not personal, but, you know, sometimes when you're young and you're in that stage of your career, it feels very personal to you, but it isn't, and I think as you get older and you mature, you realise that, and it's easier to sit down then and actually do business without letting it get, you know, let the personalities and the egos ruin it.
I think particularly with it being such like a heated like battle of the roses, like domestic showdown and stuff like that, so it's always had that kind of edge to it. With that being said, Amir signed a free fight deal with Eddie and Matchroom. Is there any way that the Tebbutt fight is not part of that free fight deal, or do you think it's inevitable?
I mean, I don't know the details, and it's hard to, you know, it's hard to sort of make deals for fights that aren't next, because there's so many different variables that can mess it up, you know. But like you said, Tebbutt's going to fight at 154 pounds now. I'm pretty sure Amir's going to box at welterweight. So maybe it never happens, but it's possible now. It's a lot more likely to happen now than it ever was before, is the point I'm making, I suppose. You know, there's no guarantee it happens. They might just go different directions. Amir might stay at welterweight. Brook might feel really comfortable at light middle. You know, he may even go up again, who knows? But, you know, it's a fight that looks more likely to happen now than it ever did before.
Well, something that was mentioned and obviously been rumoured a lot in the last few days is the Adrian Broner fight for Amir Khan. Now, Eddie obviously hasn't confirmed or denied that, and an opponent will be announced next week. If Adrian Broner is to step into the ring with Amir Khan, how do you think that fight goes?
look, AMIR can beat anyone. Do you know what I mean? Because of his speed, in his weight class, he can beat anyone because of his hands, his speed, and his ability. But also, he can be hurt. So. Broner, I think he beats Broner. I think he's too quick for him, but he's too big for him. But Broner's a hell of a fighter. There's no point. We can't look past him either. He's a really good fighter. So I think if he does fight him, fair play to him. That's a big name to come back against after the 2-year layoff, and especially given his last defeat was a fairly bad knockout. So if it is Broner, hats off to AMIR Khan.
Well, just staying with that, obviously, aside from your managerial ventures, which you're doing very well at now, you have a history of as a very distinguished fighter yourself. I'm not sure if you ever had as prolonged inactivity as AMIR has had since the knockout to Canelo. Do you think that's going to bear any impact on his return? I mean, it's 16 months or so, probably longer now that he's been out since the Canelo fight.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. It depends what you've done in that 16 months, how you've lived, etc. But even if you've lived like a monk, it's still 16 months out of the ring. I presume he hasn't sparred or done anything like that. I mean, look, from the positives, he's well rested. Maybe he's not just physically, but maybe mentally, emotionally. Maybe he's, other things in life. He's happier now. I don't know. So it's like, maybe it's a good time for him, and it'll play out that it was a good thing that he took that time away, and that he needed to tie up a few lens on his personal life, and now that he's in a better place to move forward. But inactivity is still inactivity, so we don't know the effect of that until we see him. But look, I suppose you could. He'll have a bit of a longer training camp, or maybe. Even that depends on the opponent. Like if you're going back against someone like Broner, that is a long period of time to come off and go straight into a fight like that. But AMIR Khan obviously believes in himself, and why wouldn't he? But it's inactivity. You're never going to list it as a positive, really. But if you're going to take positives about it from it, you're going to probably say, well, look, he's well rested. Probably needed a good rest. Probably needed to sort out a few things in his personal life. I don't know what they are, but we all have things in our personal life. So maybe he's took time to do that and feels in a better place now moving forward.
And just finally, something that we've touched on, you are obviously making moves in the managerial world these days, Mr. Macklin. A client that you have, little fella, Tyson Fury, back in the mix, so it would seem. What update can you give us on Tyson Fury?
I don't really know, really. It's an advisory role he's signed with MTK, and I've kind of stepped, we've had a management buy-in with MTK, so I'm only an advisor there now myself. But from what I can say, I think at the minute, I think he's just getting fit. I think he needs to lose weight, he needs to get fit, he needs to probably make a decision on who he's definitely going to train with. These are little things he needs to sort out, and then he needs to get the license and sign with get a fight date, get it signed and sealed, because then it's difficult. You can train and tick over, but it's difficult to put your foot to the floor and train properly until you've got a date and opponent. So I think it's stages, and I think at the minute he's just losing weight and getting in some kind of shape and applying for his license.
Frank Warren tweeted today about reapplying for Tyson Fury's British Boxing Board of Control license. Does that mean that that's where Tyson Fury is going to align himself with regards to a promoter?
Well, it looks that way, doesn't it, from the sound bites?
Okay, well, actually, no, one final question. Tyson Fury was on Twitter a few days ago talking about a winner-take-all fight with Anthony Joshua in his first fight back. Now, as an advisor, would you advise Tyson Fury to do that?
No, and I wouldn't, and I don't think it would happen. I think, maybe he would do it, if it was down to him. I'm not saying he wouldn't, but I don't think, it's just not going to happen. Do you know what I mean? There's too much money involved, too many other people involved, and everyone's going to want to get paid for whatever their part they play. So I think it's an unrealistic thing to say.
Okay, well, Matthew Macklin, thanks very much for speaking to Behind the Gloves. Do appreciate your time. Thanks for chatting to you. Look forward to catching up with you soon.
Right, cheers.
Cheers, Matt.
All right, nice one, Tom.
Hey, my fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps, and if you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure you go ahead and do so by clicking right here.